Hey everybody. I've posted a while ago a video about why liberals who tend to be pro-choice should vote for Ron Paul, who is very pro-life. And I received a lot of complaints in that video, and I found it interesting because I had complaints from both people who are pro-choice and pro-life. And this is really a hot issue, and it divides the people probably more than any other issue. People vote for Republicans strictly because they're pro-life, which is kind of foolish because right now there's not too much they can do besides appoint different judges, and there's no way to know for sure if the judges will actually go on their word and change Roe v. Wade. And so it's like, people are voting for all these Republicans and they've been in power for 6 years and they didn't do anything. And when Ron Paul does try to introduce bills that, changes how our laws work to be able to allow pro-life people to get what they want, they vote against it, and it makes no sense to me. What I'm trying to attack here is the fact that people are charging this whole notion of state rights when it comes to the issue of abortion to slavery. And I just think it's a terrible analogy. I've received comments from both people, pro-choice and pro-life, making the same exact analogy. And, slavery was ended, and it's amended, in the Constitution. It's illegal. All people have the same rights. And abortion is just a court ruling. That can be changed. In defense of people who are pro-life, if you firmly believe that life begins at inception, then it's totally understandable and respectable that you want to end abortion because you're essentially killing a living being. And you appreciate the fact that it's completely legal throughout the country and will do anything to be able to get somebody in because you want to protect life. And for people who are pro-choice, I understand their belief, which is what I currently am to a certain point, is that a woman has a right to choose whether or not to keep a child, so long as the fetus is not at that stage yet where it actually becomes a living being, where it changes from cell to an actual human being that has yet to be born yet. Ron Paul's case is that Roe v. Wade doesn't distinguish where that line is crossed. And I think that's really difficult because for example, I'm pro-choice when it comes to first trimester abortions, but after that, I'm kind of against it unless it threatens the mother's life, and that rarely ever happens. Ron Paul makes the point that right up until a minute before the child is actually born, you can actually have it aborted, and it'll be completely legal. And they just throw the baby away. There wouldn't be a problem. And this is where I try to say we need to come to a compromise. People who are pro-life know better than people who are pro-choice. They've been forced to live with this idea that we kill a fetus at an early stage for the last 30 or so years. And abortion is completely legal around the country, and they're fighting against it. And there's nothing they could really do aside from protesting and voting the way they believe. And when it comes to people who are pro-choice, they're essentially against the pro-life movement. They don't really need to have their own movement because they already have what they want. Roe v. Wade is unconstitutional, and people need to see it for that. when it comes to abortion, we're dealing with lives. And that is why it is such a hard topic to argue for on either side, to convince anybody of anything. And I think I just can't stress the importance of the state to decide. I mean, people who are pro-life says, well, we need to have the whole nation pro-life. I cannot stand to live in a nation that supports abortion. And, I'd say state rights is perhaps a step in the right direction for both sides. Because if we just keep this one-track mind about having it all completely legal or all completely illegal, then we're never going to get anything done, and one side is always going to be unhappy, and this issue will never, ever leave. We do not try to force other sovereign nations to be able to decide whether they're pro-life or pro-choice. We don't say, Mexico, Canada, you have to be this way. So why should we force sovereign states to decide? These things, these issues, should definitely be decided solely by the state, unless it's amended to the Constitution. Slavery was, at the time, a hot-button issue too. Southerners, they were reliant upon slaves. They wouldn't be able to go without it. It was a necessary evil. And some actually believed that it wasn't evil at all, that it was their God-given right to have slaves. Should that mean that we should let slavery back into state decisions? No. First of all, it was amended, and Ron Paul is an advocate of liberty for individuals, not into groups. Slavery, back in the 1800s and 1700s, was just basically grouping black people together and having them become slaves for us. And there's the slave trade, and it was just terrible. I'm sure that if Ron Paul was living back then, he would have done what he can to help end slavery, just in the same way that he's trying to end abortion with certain acts, which, like one of the acts he's trying to pass is where We the People Act, where abortion, where a fetus is a human life at conception, and people don't support it. Even other Republicans who are pro-life, and then that way, the federally it will start to become more illegal. We need to make progression. We need to seriously let the states decide for themselves, and that way we can see, what works for that particular state. I mean, a southern state like Georgia, you might be pro-life, but the people want to be pro-life. They want it to be that way. And people in California, they're more than likely going to be pro-choice. And leaving the decisions up to the states makes it so that way people in Georgia don't have to be forced to live with the same laws as people in California. I don't understand why so many people are attacking me on this. It's just so confusing. And really, I mean, isn't it better to compromise than to not get anywhere at all? This issue of abortion seriously needs to end, because if we don't address it and bring it down to a more local level, then it's going to be around us for a long time, and we're not going to ever vote on other issues that are important to the health of the country. We seriously need to think about what we're doing and where we're going. So just think about it, guys.